Alright, hey folks, welcome back. This is Joel, and in this video we will dwell into Cisco Umbrella, right? So I think security has become too critical, especially nowadays, because all of us are kind of like working from home, and Cisco Umbrella kind of like fits in perfectly, to provide a very scalable as well as robust, security for people working, if you're inside on the network, if you're off the network. At the same time, it's very simple to set it up as well, right? So that's what we are going to basically do today. We'll talk a little bit about that. You can get a lot of information about the product right on the Cisco's page. Directly you can go to cisco.com and search for Umbrella, or you can check a lot of cool stuff here as well, umbrella.cisco.com. Now before we even dwell into this, right, I want to take a couple of minutes to talk about DNS, right? Because the core concept of Umbrella is DNS, right? It's mainly a DNS based security product, right, when it first came in, but now they have actually added a lot of cool features to it, but it's basically a DNS security product, right? So let's start. So talk about DNS. I'm pretty sure almost all of us know what DNS is, right? DNS is basically nothing but whenever you put www.google.com on your browser, it is resolving it to an IP address. It resolves back to an IP address, right? What's the use of it? I mean, I want to keep this session as less technical as possible, because Umbrella is that kind of a product where even if you are not technical, you can kind of deploy it, right? Because it's a very simple and yet very effective product, right? So DNS, coming back to DNS, like I said, it basically helps you to resolve whatever you put in your browser, right? You're going to put something like www.google.com, so this gets resolved into the IP address, whatever it is. I'm not sure about the IP address, what IP Google has, but this is what it does, right? What's the need for doing it? Because now you don't really have to remember this one, right, for all the millions of websites which are there on the internet. It is way easier for human beings to remember this, right, instead of this. So that's the whole reason why we have your DNS. All right. Now, when we talk about DNS, one thing you need to remember about DNS, it is hierarchical. Right? It's hierarchical in nature. What I mean by that is, let's again take the same example, google.com, right? So let's pick www.google.com, right? That's your FQDN, right? Fully qualified domain name, right? So this is what we call as a FQDN. Let me write that word as well. Fully qualified domain name. You'll probably hear this quite a lot, in the IT world. Right? Now, what I mean by hierarchical is that whenever you look at a URL from today onwards, always remember there is a hidden dot at the end. There's always a hidden dot at the end, right? Even if you put this on the browser, if you don't put it, it doesn't matter, but there is always an inherent dot over there. And what is that dot? That is your root DNS, right? It's the root. So whenever you look at the FQDN, always observe it from right to left in this direction. So you first have the root. Now after the root, what we have is your TLDs, top level domains. What are top level domains? Something like .com, .org, .us, and so on, right? You probably would have heard this. Here we have .com, but some websites or some web servers might use .org and so on, right? So those are what we call as your top level domains. Now it's very important to understand this, because the next, when we trace the path of a DNS request, it really makes sense, right? So think of it this way, right? So the root is basically, root knows the identities of all these guys, the top level domain guys, and nothing else. Whereas the top level domains then further branch out to what we call as the subdomains. Here it could be .google, .cisco, .twitter, right? Whatever it is. So these are your sublevel domains, subdomains or sublevel domains, right? either of the names make sense. But after that, these further branch down to what we call as the leaf. Sorry, let me just get rid of that. This is where these guys branch out and to what we call as leaves, right? And one of the most popular leaf is your web server, which is accessed at www. So that is your this part, right? So that's why I said this is your root, this is your TLD, this is your subdomain, this is your leaf, right? So finally you have the leaf. So this is how your whole DNS structure, or the DNS of the internet, is kind of like structured in this way. Right? So now let's see what really happens when you kind of trigger a DNS request on your laptop, right? So let me just get rid of this for a minute. Okay, so let's say you're sitting here happily, on a, let me just grab this. Yeah, so you're here on your laptop, right? You're the client, and you want to reach out to, I don't know, maybe Yahoo, right? I think not many people use Yahoo anymore, but anyway, you want to reach out to www.yahoo.com. Now, you're the client, right? So you probably have an IP address, say 10.1.1.2, right? That's your IP address. And you probably would have been given a DNS server by your ISP as well, right? So let's say the DNS server is 10.1.1.10, right? So this is your ISP. The ISP would have given you a DNS server, right? Where when the DHCP process happens, right, it can give you a default gateway, it can give you a DNS server. So let's say it gave you a DNS server which is 10.1.1.10, right, and that guy is here. So what happens is that when you are trying to reach out to this yahoo.com, right, so that request, or a DNS request, is basically sent to the DNS server, which is this guy. Now the ISP DNS server generally will not, I mean, if someone has already accessed yahoo.com in the past, then that particular entry might be there in the cache. But let's assume for our understanding that entry is not there in the cache, right? So in which case, it really can't give you the information what you need. So it has to further query. So what he is going to do is that he is going to reach out to whom? Remember, I told you there is always an inherent dot here, right? I said there is a dot at the end. So it's going to reach out to the root DNS server, which is just dot server, you can say, right? There are like, I don't know, maybe 10 plus dot servers all over the world to kind of provide for redundancy and all of that. Now the root server or the dot server is going to reply back saying, look, I mean, this guy is going to obviously send a request saying, tell me who yahoo.com is, in this way. But this guy is going to say, look, I don't have information about Yahoo, but I know about the TLDs. And you are interested, I see that you are interested in .com, so he's going to reply back with the IP of .com, TLD. This guy will take that information and he'll try to reach out to whom? The .com TLD. The .com TLD is going to reply back saying, look, I don't have the IP of the FQDN, but I know where you can reach .yahoo. So he's going to give the IP of .yahoo, right? And finally, this guy can now send a DNS request to .yahoo, and this .yahoo DNS server will be generally where? Inside the headquarters, or probably in the data center of your Yahoo.com, Yahoo company, right? In one of the data centers. So, and there will be mapping of each and every services, and for www also you'll have some kind of an IP address. So this guy is going to reply back with that information. He's going to say, look, you can reach it out on, I don't know, maybe 1.1.1. I'm just giving an example. And this guy will relay that information back to here. So that's how your PC kind of learned on how to reach the web server at yahoo.com, right? So let me just grab this, give me a second. So that's how the whole flow works, right? So, and that's why making the DNS as hierarchical was very important, because now if you see the use of this, your root here doesn't really need to know the resolution for, or the mapping for all the websites in the world. Similarly, .com doesn't need to know the resolution for everything. It's hierarchical, right? Root will return back the information read .com. .com will return back the information to reach only Yahoo and so on. So it's nicely divided, segregated, segmented, and into a very hierarchical way to make it more scalable in the future, right? So I just wanted to talk about that for a minute to give you an idea about how our DNS works currently as of today. Alright, so that being said, now I think we are in a good place to kind of dig deeper into Umbrella. So what does Umbrella do? Honestly, it's pretty straightforward. Alright, so your Umbrella is nothing but provides what we call as a recursive DNS service, right? So it provides you the DNS server, right? So literally it's nothing but your client is sitting here. Normally you would use some open DNS servers like Google's, right, which is 8.8.8. This is what most of you probably have it on your laptop, on a home laptop at least. But what DNS does is, what Umbrella does is, it wants you to use its DNS servers, which probably, I think the IP addresses start from something like 200-ish, 202 or something like that. I'll have to check that. But it basically wants you to put this particular IP address, right, as your DNS server, so that every single DNS request from now on, right, basically goes up to the DNS server, the Umbrella DNS server, which is there on the cloud. So it is cloud based. Right now, why would you want to do that? What are you getting in return? Well, Umbrella is what Umbrella does is it provides you the security in the form that if it feels that this DNS request to that website which you are trying to do or trying to access is malicious, if it feels that the website is malicious or insecure, right, then it will not return the IP address of that website, right? In fact, what it will do in simple terms is it's going to have a block page here, right? A small block page, and it is going to return back the IP of this particular block page. So on your browser, when you open, you will basically be getting unauthorized page or something, the page was blocked or something like that, right? A message you will see. Now this sounds very simple, right? It's very simple. You're just looking at the DNS request and you're replying back with either, the actual IP address, right? Or you are replying back with a block page, right? But it has really big implications because there are a lot of security, hacks or let's say intrusions which happen at the layers, at the application layer, at the the DNS layer, and a lot of them can be blocked or can be prevented by using this. And also it's a cloud service, right? It's on the cloud, so you really don't have to do anything. You just need to buy the service and Cisco will take care of everything from setting up the infrastructure point of view, updating it, whatever it is, right? You just need to buy the service, and within few minutes you'll be able to migrate your existing DNS servers to the Umbrella DNS service, right? Now next, apart from that, now a little bit about if you are thinking of getting this for your organization, you'll probably find a lot of different just like any other Cisco product, you will have different flavors, right? So you have what we call as DNS Security Essential. This is very basic, right? It provides you the DNS layer security, and I think it also allows you to kind of send all the logs from Umbrella to the AWS this thing as well, S3 buckets. But then you can have a look at this. It basically gives you some of the very basic functionalities in the DNS Security Essentials license. Then you move to a advantage license and you get a little bit about the Investigate, which I will talk about the Umbrella Investigate later. It gives you kind of like a API approach to gather information about the health of certain websites, right? So you can programmatically access this information, because now Umbrella gets, more than 100 billion DNS requests in a day. So with all that information, it is able to mine some very good insights, and it is able to come back and tell you that, look, this website is malicious. So it is really that information can then be used for a lot of other use cases. So that's where the Investigate comes. The proxy part, again, you can do a lot of cool things with the proxy, right? Because when you put a proxy, currently what is happening is, if you're using DNS in the very basic version or the very basic license, the DNS server will never come in the data path of the packet, right? The IP resolution, the DNS or the domain name to IP resolution happens, and the IP address is returned, but after that, that's it. I mean, the packet is never going to Umbrella again. I mean, the packet will traverse through the actual network. But putting a proxy, what you can do now is you can kind of like monitor all the traffic which is coming out or going into the network. So it's nothing but working as a traditional proxy where all traffic goes through you and you have the decision to either forward it or drop it. So that's something cool. Similar secure web gateway. So this is the latest add-on to the solution. I think it's called SIG, Secure Internet Gateway Access, and you can see a lot of work. So here you have things like cloud delivered firewall, right? So you can write some very simple policies for layer 2, layer 3, and even layer 7, and you also can integrate your CASB, right? Your cloud access security broker here, which means now if your organization is using, say, Microsoft 365, they are using Salesforce, and they're using Dropbox, whatever, right? 4 or 5 different SaaS-based applications. All of them can be integrated to CASB over here, and it will take care of all the authentication, right? Because even for these applications, you would need some strict authorizations, because you don't want some random person connecting to these applications and changing the data in it. So that integration is basically made very smoother with this. So there are different flavors. You can obviously check the ones which you need. And this is what one more thing which I wanted to say. When DNS or Umbrella started, it was mainly working as it was providing security at the DNS layer, but you see over the years it has improved drastically, and you can see cool things like the secure web gateway, the cloud delivered firewall, CASB, and threat intelligence, and all of that has been added to the portfolio. All right, so next, what do we do next? So now a little bit about, I think we can go and get started with okay, before that, let me also talk a little bit about the deployments, right? So now when you talk about Umbrella, I mean, you understood the basic idea, right? We are sending all our DNS requests to the Umbrella cloud, and it is going to reply back with, it is going to make sure that, the websites which you are accessing are all safe and secure to be accessed. But when you talk about deployment, how would you deploy this in your network, right? There could be a few questions on how to do it. So there are actually many options. First one is when you have internal DHCP, which means, you have a client here, right? And that, I don't know, maybe connects up to a switch. That again connects up to, I don't know, probably a router, right? So you probably have this guy as your DHCP server, right? So what you can do in the first approach is, where you have an internal DHCP server, let's call it as internal. So what you can do is, you can basically configure the DHCP server to reply back, right, with the DNS, DNS as the Umbrella DNS, right? Which means that, IP address which I told you, 207 something. I'll show you later when we do the demo, but that's a very simpler way, right? Every single host which connects to your network, you're basically replying back. When you're giving the DHCP IP address, you're also telling the DNS is going to be the IP of the Umbrella. So now every single DNS request generated on the client will be sent to the Umbrella, and your network is secure. Second is your internal DNS. Imagine, so you yourself have a DNS server in your network, right? You yourself have a DNS server in your network. So in that case, what you can do is that, instead of sending Umbrella directly, you can reply back with this particular DNS over here, right? You're going to say, look, client, you want to connect to any websites, your DNS resolution will be handled by this guy, right? And what you can do on this DNS server is, you can handle all the internal DNS requests directly, right? So say client 1 wants to talk to some server 2 inside the network, right? So those will be locally resolved, but then the client also might want to talk to the internet outside. So this one is going to be, we can configure forwarding, right? Which means that all the internet bound requests will be forwarded to whom? Umbrella. right? This is also pretty simple to set up. So one is your first option is your internal directly giving you the DHCP server directly giving you the IP of the Umbrella DNS, or if you already have a DNS server, then you can continue using it for local DNS requests, but for external internet bound DNS requests you can resolve it, and I mean you can forward it to Umbrella, right? And Umbrella will reply back with the right ones. Now you might ask a question. This is what's going to happen is in your traditional network, this is how it is going to look, right? Just get rid of that. So in your traditional network, this is how it's going to be, right? So you're going to have like at the edge, you're going to have a firewall, right? Or you probably have a NAT router, right? You're gonna have, this is going to be that guy, right? You're gonna have your router, you're gonna have your switch, you're gonna have your clients C1, C2 and so on. This is your network, but at the edge, right, before leaving to the internet over here, you're going to have a firewall. Now that guy is going to do NAT, right? Now what this means is that on your Umbrella, which is sitting somewhere in the internet, right, it's somewhere in the internet, will always get the DNS request with this NATed IP. This IP which is there here, the NATed, if you're using PAT, it is going to be just this one IP, whatever is there. So it's always going to get requests from that. So which means that you're kind of limited with your policies, right? So what if you want to allow C1 to access Facebook, whereas you don't want C2 to access Facebook, right? If you want to do some kind of that scenario, right, where you have two different hosts and you want to provide access to C1 but not to C2. So it becomes difficult because here every single DNS request which comes in is going to have this particular IP address, the NATed IP, right? Even though the request is coming from here or from here, it's always going to have the NATed IP. So in such case, we can use some other options like what we call as the Umbrella virtual appliance, right? So this virtual appliance can be set up, right? And that guy is going to kind of like send excuse me. So the virtual appliance, right, will be configured as the DNS server on all these clients, and the virtual appliance has the capability. Let's say the virtual appliance is here, sitting here, right? So the virtual appliance has the capability to send, along with the DNS request, it is going to send what we call as extended DNS, right? So this extended DNS will have the information about this particular IP as well. It could be some private IP 10.1.1. So it is going to tell that information to the Umbrella server, right? Now once this guy knows that okay, the request is coming from 10.1.1, right, now he can enforce the policies corresponding to that guy, right? So we are kind of solving a problem with the whole NAT and which would be present here by using like a virtual appliance, right? Similarly, some of the products, right, Cisco's products like ISRs and I think WLC's, ASAs and all of these guys, they also support to a light version of this appliance, right, the virtual appliance here, right? So that is, if you have that kind of those products in your network, then they can also do this eDNS, right? Basically, eDNS is nothing but sending the DNS request, but along with some extra information about the client, telling that look, this request is coming from 10.1.1, so that the Umbrella server can then exercise some kind of a policy based on it. All right. So I think enough of talking, and let's get down to business, which is labbing, right? So let me get my lab up. All right. So what I've done here is, I mean, my topology is nothing complicated. It's just nothing but I've put in a small PC, right, and I've connected it to the internet. Now I could have done this on my local laptop itself, but the problem is my organization already uses Umbrella, so you would really not know if my policies, I mean my policies would be dictated by by the Umbrella instance which is set up by my enterprise, right, my company. So I set up a completely small lab which is completely independent of Umbrella as of now, so to test our Umbrella features on this, right? Cool. Now this is the PC, and that PC is over here, right? This is the PC. You can see it's a Windows PC, but I'll be accessing the Umbrella dashboard from my Mac itself, right? Because this is a dashboard, it's a management console you can access from anywhere. So I'm going to log into this guy. right? And let's put in the password. Now you can also set up a account, right, and get the free version of Umbrella for 14 days, right? The free trial. You can test it out, right, and see if it meets your needs, and then you can kind of like go from there with the licensing and talk to your Cisco representative to get the full version and stuff, right? So yeah, so that's there. Now this is what you see when you log in. I mean, actually I've logged in before, but the first time when you log in, it's going to ask you to mention the IP address of your network, right, from where it's expecting to get all the requests, right? So generally it is going to be a public address. So in my case, let's see, under the deployments, if I go to my networks, so this is the default thing. I've not put anything else. I have to just put in the IP address of in my case, this particular PC, right, where I'll be testing everything. In fact, if I have to show you this guy, so you know, when this requests are going out to the internet, it is getting NATed, right, with this particular IP 35.234.56.42. so that's the public IP. So that's basically what I have to put, right? I just put a name calling it as corporate network. This is the IP address, and you just need to put that over there, and that's the only settings which is needed as you log in or the first time you come into the this particular dashboard. Cool. So that's how that's the look and feel of it, right? Now in Umbrella there are what we call as policy engines. The different kinds of policy engines, right? The first thing is your DNS layer security, the DNS policy engine. Then you have something called content policy engine. So let's go to the policies here. You can see here on the left hand side, you have your default DNS policies, right? And then you have some components mentioned here, which is your content policies. You have application policies or application engines. Let's call it as engines, content engines, application engines, right? Then you have a bit of file analysis being done, right? I think it's probably this one. And then you have destination engines, destination list engines, right? And we'll look into each of them in detail. Now, to create a policy is so easy, right? That's what I really love about, you know, Umbrella. So look at this. I just need to, this is one default policy which will already be there when you put in this guy for the first time, right? So this is your default policy. Let's go to the default policy. You can see here what's getting blocked. Let's see. eBay. Okay, that's good. So this is the default policy which is going to be there, when you first sign in, right? But you can create a policy in like few seconds. So this is how you can do it. Just click on plus, right? What would you want to protect? In my case, I want to protect my network, which is corporate network, right? The network which I put there, basically the public IP, right? I'm basically telling Umbrella all my DNS requests are going to come from that particular public IP, right? So otherwise DNS will not know, right, what which IP addresses are associated with which organizations. So that's a way of doing that. Press on next, all this default. I'm leaving all of this to be default for now. There you go, next. So all of these are cool features, right? Look at this, the content. It is like, for example, you want to ban only pornography, then you can select low, right? You want to block all the adult related websites, then you can select moderate. So these are all pre-cooked templates which is coming from Cisco, right? You click on next, and within like few seconds, there you go, you also have an option to kind of block an application, right? So you can do that as well. And you can create your destination list. I'll talk about destination list in a while, but for now let's click on this. File inspection is also possible, right? When I talk about proxy, if your DNS or if your Umbrella is kind of in the data path, right, then the file inspection is possible. And to put your DNS in the data path, we'll have to do a bit of proxying, right? So we'll talk about that. But there you go. So once I click next, and I don't know, this is going to be the page where you can select what is the block web page which is going to be displayed, right? When something is getting blocked, you need to display some web page. So I'm going to use the default and just give whatever name you want, save it, and there you go. We have actually created a new policy, and we did it probably in few seconds. right? So it's that simple to create your policies on Umbrella, you know, considering of all these cool components. Let me just go and delete this for now. Alright, so once done with that, I mean, we just checked that it was pretty easy to create the policies. Cool. Now let's actually dig deeper into, you know, all these various cool features which we have here. Right, so like I said, these are the various types of policies which you can create. So I'm going to let's create a policy, right? I think that'll be better. So before that, let me also show you on my instance, right? Let me show you ipconfig. Do I have ipconfig? Maybe not. I just want to show you the IP address of the umbrella which I have configured here, right? So if I do ipconfig, I think that should give us the information. Probably will it? Maybe not. So let's do ipconfig -all, right? Sorry. I think it is supposed to be /all. Yeah, there you go. So my Ethernet adapter which I'm using is probably, which is the Ethernet adapter I'm using. So I think it's this one, right? The one which I'm moving the cursor on. And you can see the DNS server, which is 208.67.220.220 or 222.222. So these are the two OpenDNS or basically your Umbrella DNS servers, right? And there are obviously, for redundancy purpose, for load balancing purpose, there are so many POPs all over the world, right? So many point of presence for these Umbrella all over the world, but they use what we call as anycast routing, so that just by using these two IP addresses, they are able to kind of like load balance between the different data centers and give you the best experience, right? So that's the only prerequisite, right? I have configured my DNS servers to be nothing but my Umbrella DNS server. All right. That being said, let's go down to, where do we go? So let's go to my so let's go to this place, right? So where we are right now, I showed you the networks. I showed you that I have configured my network to kind of use DNS, OpenDNS, right? Which is fine. OpenDNS Umbrella, I might use it interchangeably, right? Because OpenDNS was the earlier name, now it is rebranded it to Umbrella, right? Cool. So let's create a new policy, guys. A very good policy. Let's go to policies. Let's go to all policies, and let's click on plus here, right? Let's go through each of these, right? It's going to, now the next thing which you need to select here is what do I really want to monitor, right? In my case, I would want to monitor my network, right? And I've defined my network, which is that particular IP. So I'm going to select that IP. Click on next, right? So it's going to ask me a bunch of things, right? Do you want to inspect files? Do you want to enable content policies and so on? So I want everything. I'm not going to go inside. I'm not going to enable any advanced settings for now. We'll do it later. So there is something called enable intelligent proxy, which is enabled by default. So I'm going to touch that, but everything is good. So let's go and click on next. Here it's again going to ask me some security settings, right? So it's going to ask me some settings as to what kind of attacks do you want it to block, right, by default. So phishing attacks, command and control attacks, newly seen domains, malwares and stuff. So all of these are I'm going to enable by default. I'm not going to enable the rest of the stuff. You are free to explore those. I'm going to click on next. This is the content policy, right? So everything is kind of put in one single place, right? So we do content policy, then we do application, then we do destination list. In the middle somewhere you'll get the file policy. Everything is there in one single place. It's not that you have to search and you'll be lost, right? It's pretty simple. So coming to the content policy here, you can select whatever you want. I'm going to create a custom one, right? Let's say my use case is that I want to block people from using some kind of so I think I already have created something here, so I can probably use that. I've created it before, but it's pretty simple, right? So you can create a custom content policy, and I want to block people from using e-commerce websites like eBay and stuff like that, right? So if you want to create something new, just click on create new setting. I already have one, so I'm going to use that. So, and you can tick whatever you want. I'm going to tick only the e-commerce, right? So I'm going to click on next. Next comes the application engine. So here you can again, I think I already have something called social block, but you can create something new. In my case, what I want to do is I want to block all the social media websites, right? So there you go. So I've clicked on social networking. If I click on this, you will see basically it's going to block things like Facebook, Instagram, there's TikTok, Tinder, interesting, and Twitter. And so basically all your social media websites are basically going to be blocked, right? So that's cool. Now let's go on next. So that you can define, right? So, and you see the user interface and everything is pretty straightforward. Anyone can like pretty quickly get this up, right? So I'm not going to select anything in destination list for now. Let's click on next. File inspection is enabled by default, so I'm going to use it. Now this is that block page, right? So this is how your block page will look like by default, right? If you want to customize this, you can do that as well by creating a new appearance. For now, I'm going to use the default one. And there you go. I'm going to give a name to this guy. I'm going to call this as, I don't know, corp policy. And let's save this, right? So there you go. We have done what we started out to do. We created a simple policy involving a bunch of use cases, like blocking social media, blocking your e-commerce websites, and so on, right? So that's pretty cool. Now the thing is, generally you have to wait for some time for the policies to take effect. It's not going to be immediate, so probably like 2 or 3 minutes you'll have to wait. So while that is happening, let me show you another cool stuff, which is your policy tester, right? So alright, so you got this policy tester over here, and what's the use of this? So here I can select, what did I create earlier? I created a network called corp, right? So I can select that network and I can test my policies against it. Like for example, Cisco.com. Do you think my policies will allow Cisco.com? I think it does, right? Because I've not blocked it. You can see here, this is pretty cool. So it's going to tell result, destination was allowed. And it's also going to tell me that this policy, which is going to be, right now we have two policies, right? One is a default policy and the one which we created. So it's going to say this policy has been applied, and because it got applied, it got allowed. But it's also going to tell me the other policies as well. It's going to send me with respect to other policies also, this particular website would have been allowed, right? Pretty cool, right? Now while that is happening, let me also show you one more interesting thing. While you know the policy which we have created comes into effect, the other thing which you will have to do is, where is that? Let's go to configuration probably. Let's see, it should be somewhere in deployments. Yeah. So configuration, you'll have something called as a root certificate. Now it's very important to download this root certificate and install it, right, on your system. So I've already installed it on the machine where I really will be testing it, right? But this is important to download. You just need to download and double click it and it is going to be installed. You also will find information on how to do it on this particular page, but it's pretty simple. But why do you need this? You need this because some of the policies later which we'll be testing we'll be doing something, we'll be doing the proxy, right? So we'll be using Umbrella as my proxy. Now what is proxy? Proxy is nothing but Umbrella will act as a man in the middle, right? So whatever information, I don't know if I have a image here. Okay, let me try to write it down. So you're here sitting on your laptop, Umbrella is here, and the website is here which you are trying to access. So what is going to happen is you are going to send a request to this guy asking for the IP address of the website. This guy wants to act as a proxy now, right? So he will obviously generate a request to that website, but he will kind of like, he would want to snoop into that particular packet. He would want to check and verify that that particular the traffic coming from this website is legitimate and not malicious, right? So your SSL connection, which normally would have been established like this, right, will now be established this way. It will be established from the PC to the umbrella and from the umbrella to the website. So that's why, right, for this SSL session to be established, you would need the root of your umbrella to be installed on the client. Otherwise, the SSL will not be set up. The client will need to trust the root certificate of your umbrella, right? So that's the whole idea of proxy, right? Proxy is nothing but like a man in the middle, right, who will basically sit in the data path and it's going to silently listen to everything which is happening, and it is going to reflect the packets on the ether of the site. So that's what is going to happen, and for that you would need the root certificate to be installed. Again, it's not compulsory that without this also Umbrella would provide a lot of other features, but if you want to explore or take maximum advantage of Umbrella, then I would really suggest having the root CA of Cisco on your on the systems where you'll be testing this. Cool. Now I think maybe the policy would have propagated by now, so we are good to test, I believe. Let's go and check. So we'll test by first checking if cisco.com works. Okay, there you go. I think let's translate this. I think my VM is probably in Taiwan, right? So that's why it is showing me the Taiwan stuff. But anyway, so we've got the Cisco website working. But now let's see. We blocked what? eBay. There you go. eBay got blocked, guys, right? And you want to see the information why it got blocked, you can just click on here and it will give you the information, right? So it blocked because of this, or because of our policy. It is clearly telling me that this site is blocked due to content filtering. Remember, we did that content filtering, and that's why it got blocked. Now if you see, let me show you some fun stuff. If I go to ping, and if I try to ping, say, ebay.com, sorry, I think I pinged the wrong one. It's eBay, right? If you do this, and you will see that you are basically getting reply from IP address which is starting from 146.112. Now this IP address is not the IP of eBay. It is the IP address of my block page, right? The Cisco Umbrella, I set up a block page to reply back to the requests which are blocked, and that is the IP address, right? That guy is replying back to me, which means our umbrella actually worked, and we kind of were able to block the access to eBay in our network. Similarly, remember, we blocked social media, right? So Facebook also should be blocked. There you go, Facebook blocked as well. Right? So that's pretty interesting. Now from the file policies or the file inspection policies, I have a page open here for the documentation. For the file policies, to check if the file policy is working properly, we can right now we have not enabled. So there is one more feature called Ssl Decryption, right? I'll talk about that in a minute, or probably a bit later. But before that, so forget this for a minute, Ssl Decryption. But what we are trying to do now is we are trying to see if Umbrella is able to prevent or is able to inspect the files. To test this, I think the Umbrella folks have put up a small website where they are hosting some kind of a malware file, right? Some iCar file or whatever it is. So now to test this, we can do the same thing. Go to the browser, and it's a HTTP, right? HTTP is clear text, so you really don't have to do any proxy, and you don't have to do any SSL decryption and stuff for that, because it's HTTP. You don't have SSL. But you see, when I'm trying to access this got blocked due to security threat, right? And that's because that particular website had some kind of, or we were trying to access some file which is malicious file. So which kind of shows us that the file analysis also works, right? Alright, so the next is, let me also show you some from a reporting perspective, right? The other cool thing which I really like about Umbrella is that if I go down to the reporting section, if I go to, say, activity search, you basically get a very good report on all the URLs or all the websites that were blocked. Look here, you have every information. I can click on blocked, and I can apply, and you can now investigate, and you can see basically, look here, we have eBay, we have Facebook, all of these got blocked, right? You can click on any of these to get information. You can say save full details, and it's going to tell you it got blocked because, because of a policy, right? ebay.com, and it got blocked because it was a e-commerce shopping website, and stuff like that, right? So you have very good or clear visibility as to what is happening in your network, right? So that's pretty cool. So that's mainly with respect to the reports. You can, obviously there are a lot of other there are a lot of other views right over here, or filters, I would say. You can see what got allowed. Just put this filter and it will show you everything that was allowed. So in our case, all of these websites were allowed and so on, right? So that's that, right? So that's pretty cool. Now the next is, let's also go and play around a little bit with the destination list. So I think I did not talk about destination list. So let's go back to our policies. So we talked about the 3 or 4 types of policy. We talked about application, we talked about content, we talked about file, but we did not talk about this destination list. So if you go down to destination list, we can create a new destination list. And what we are going to say is, so destination list is basically, as they are explaining here, will enable you to customize your policy to block or allow any domains, right? So in our case, what we are going to do is, we have blocked all the e-commerce websites, but we want to, let's say, enable only eBay, right? We want to enable eBay. So in that case, what we'll do is, I don't know if I already have, I already have created something for eBay, right? But it's pretty simple. You just need to give the name. You can give something as eBay okay or something here. In my case, I already have it. You can select the action. You want it blocked, you want it allowed. In my case, it's going to be allowed. And put the domain URL. It's going to be nothing but, maybe I can create something new. Let's create a new one, right? It's going to be easy. So let's do eBay, okay, let's say 2, right? Because I already have one. So I'm going to say allowed. I'm going to say ebay.com. Excuse me. I'm going to click on add, right? There you go. It got added, and I'm going to save this. So that's it. So now this particular website, right? So I already have eBay. Okay, so let me just go and delete this older one. I think I had already created while testing it before. Anyway, so I have something called eBay 2 right now, right, which I just now created, and the whole idea here is to allow eBay, right, while our other policies are blocking the rest of the e-commerce websites. Now, just creating a destination list is not sufficient. You'll have to go down to your policies, which is the policies, is a corporate policy. Let's come here, and here you will find, where is the destination list? Over here, right? Let's click on edit, and you will find your eBay 2 here. Let's select that. You added eBay 2, save here. There you go. So we created a policy and we added it to our main policy, right? We created a destination list and added it to the policy here. So now what should happen is that, after 2 or 3 minutes, it won't happen immediately, right? I can show you that. If I right now go to ebay.com, it will still be blocked. See, it is still blocked. But we'll come back, I'll pause the video and come back after 2 or 3 minutes. And the policy should have propagated by then, and you should see that eBay will be allowed after that. Right, so let me pause the video now. Alright, so let's check now if eBay works. There you go, now eBay works, right, because of the destination list which we just now added. Alright, so that is a good check. Let's move to a couple of interesting features which I was talking about earlier, which is your Ssl decryption and your intelligent proxies, right? So the whole idea about proxy and Ssl decryption and stuff. I mean, all of this comes into play when you want your umbrella to not just do DNS security, but provide you a little more, right? More like a web, a secure web gateway kind of a thing, right? So to look into that, let's look into the intelligent proxy section, right? So let's probably go back to my view here. So where are we? We are on the all policies page, and this is our policy which is there. What we'll do is, let's go to the advanced settings. There should be advanced setting here. So let's go to the advanced settings. right? Under the advanced setting, you will find an option called enable intelligent proxy, which is already enabled. Let's also enable SSL decryption, right? Proxy I've already explained to you guys. It's nothing but it extends on our DNS layer protection. What it does in simple terms is, we already know that the traffic to bad websites is already handled at the DNS level, right? It's already blocked. For the good websites, good and bad websites already taken care of the DNS level. But what if there are some gray websites, right, or risky domains? We really don't know if it is 100% secure or not. So for those websites, we'll basically we'll be using proxy. And when I say proxy, we are not just looking at the DNS, rather we are also inspecting the traffic, right, and trying to figure out should we allow this or not, right? So that's the whole idea here. And remember, I explained you about the whole SSL root certificate part. So that is really needed for SSL decryption, right? Because you are now breaking the whole SSL session from the client to the web server by putting your umbrella in the center. So you would need to kind of decrypt your SSL, right? So you'll have to enable the SSL decryption on your umbrella, and that's how the SSL decryption and encryption will happen to kind of enable this man in the middle kind of a setup, right? Cool. So let's try this. Let's test this to understand more better, right? So we are on the advanced page here, and first we'll do HTTP, right? No HTTPS. So if there is no HTTPS, there is no question of SSL. Forget about SSL when we are talking about HTTP, right? I think I have a document here. Probably these are the user guides. You just need to go to the docs.umbrella.com/umbrella guides. You'll get all the user guides. I think I have enabled the user guide for the I've opened the user guide for the intelligent proxy, if I'm not wrong. Have I? No, this is investigate. Okay, here you go. So this is the intelligent proxy, and they clearly tell you how to test it as well, right? So in our case, we'll have to just take this particular URL and we'll have to put it where? Okay, so we just enabled it. Did we save it? Let me check. Not sure. Did we save it? We'll have to go back and check it on my. Okay, so we are here. We enabled SSL decryption. Let's save this. Okay, now it's gonna probably take a few more minutes for the SSL decryption to be enabled, but that's okay. We can still verify our other stuff, which is let's go here and let's test our this thing proxy, right? There you go. So it is telling me that the intelligent proxy is working correctly for you, right? So if it is working correctly, let's try this. So let's click on this and let's try to open this blocked URL, right? So you can see what happened now. We basically tried to open this blocked URL, and you can see that that particular URL was actually blocked, right? So there are two use cases here. One is using the proxy, right? Right now we have started using the proxy. Proxy can be used for both HTTP and HTTPS, but SSL decryption, that feature you have to use only for HTTPS, right? Because there is no SSL in case of HTTP, right? So first you can see here the intelligent proxy is working correctly, and we tried to open this blocked URL and it got blocked, right? Which is expected. Now we'll try to do the other stuff, which is, okay, I think got stuck a bit. Give me a second. Okay, so now let's try to open this guy, right? So what this is trying to do is, if you read the full thing, it is telling me allow the URL and block the page content, right? And you can see here the intelligent proxy was able to block this malicious image. Looks like this image is some malicious image, right? And so we blocked the image, but the URL was still opening, right? The URL opened successfully. So you can see that this is possible only if our umbrella is inspecting the content, right? Just by inspecting the DNS request, it will not be able to do this. So this kind of proves that we have successfully used umbrella as our proxy, and in the proxy it's an intelligent proxy, so it is able to block the malicious image, at the same time show the rest of the web page which is not malicious. Cool. Now let's see if the HTTPS works. So for HTTPS to work, we would need SSL decryption, otherwise the proxy will not work. So for that, it's going to be the same URL but this time we'll have to put in HTTPS. So let's paste this and change this to HTTPS. And let's see, you're not currently using SSL decryption in the intelligent proxy. The reason is because we just now changed it. It's probably going to take few minutes. Let's see if the changes, we really did the change in the advanced settings. Yeah, we have enabled it, but probably it's going to take few more minutes for the change to be reflected. So it's not long, probably a couple of minutes. So let's gonna pause the video and come back when it is done. Alright, I waited for a couple of minutes. So now let's try this. So if I put HTTPS proxy open dnstest.com, there you go. It is telling me that the SSL decryption in the intelligent proxy is working correctly for you, which means we will be now able to inspect even the HTTPS websites, right? So let's open the blocked URL, right? There you go, it got blocked. It is HTTPS but still got blocked. Let's go back and try to do the second test, which is it is able to inspect the insides of inside traffic, right, which is inside the SSL tunnel, and it is able to do that because of SSL decryption. And you can see the malicious image was blocked, whereas the rest of the website got passed. So that clearly shows that it is really working, right? We can also check this from here as well. Let's try to ping. Let's see, it will basically be hitting the same as earlier. So let's paste this. I'm gonna say ping proxy.opendns. You should see the 146.112.54 website, right? And if you go back to the documentation, you will basically see that in the user guide, they are clearly telling that if the IP address of the domain name comes back with the IP address within the range 146.112, it means that it is getting redirected to the intelligent proxy, right? And we clearly are getting that particular IP address over here, and it means that we are getting redirected to the intelligent proxy, right? Cool. And like I said, you can anytime go back to your activity search here, right? So your reporting activity search, and you will be able to see everything that got blocked, right, just now. Probably it will take few minutes, for that to appear here, right? If I see the blocked content, you should see all of that. See, it's already here, right? HTTPS SSL proxy. These are the websites which we were trying to access and which were getting blocked. You can see the action here is blocked, right? These were the two HTTP ones and these are two HTTPS ones. So you'll see your logs very clearly over here, right? Apart from that, let me also show you probably here the secure, the root certificate, which you basically see is nothing but the one which you validated, right, which you imported. So you can see details. Under the details section, you can see the issuer is Cisco, right? And if I probably go down a bit, you will see that the common name is SSL proxy. So basically, you are really not talking to the end website, you are actually talking to the proxy, and the proxy is then talking to the website and relaying the information for you. So all of these clues kind of make sense, and it validates our point. Now the last thing which I want to show you is what we call as the umbrella investigate function. Pretty cool function again. So it's over here. This is where you'll find, you just click on this and it opens up here. And let me show you a little bit of documentation around that as well. So I think it's here. Yeah, umbrella investigate. So what this really does is it uses a lot of machine learning, right, here, because now there are like close to probably 85 million users in the world who are using Umbrella, right? So Umbrella servers basically get close to 150 billion DNS requests per day. So Cisco, what they do is they kind of use all of this information, obviously anonymously, right, and try to run a lot of machine learning mathematical models on top of it to figure out which particular websites are malicious and which particular websites are not, right, or which URLs are malicious, which DNS requests are malicious, and all of that. So it does a lot of big data analysis on it, and the final insights, right, which it gets out of that is what we call as the Cisco Umbrella Investigate. Now there are APIs using which you can access this, right? And you can integrate it with your systems. One quick way of looking at this is, let's go back to my portal here, right? It has opened up. I can put a regex, or I can put a, so let me show you how to put a regex, right? So if I want to check for cisco.com, so I can do .star cisco dot, but then I'll have to escape this, so I'm gonna say .star again. So I want everything, you know, about cisco.com, right? Any websites which are very similar to cisco.com. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna escape this dot. So it's simple regex, right? You can figure out the regex, it's pretty straightforward. So when I hit the investigate option, it is going to take some time to retrieve the details. There you go. Now it is telling me these are some of the new domains which have come up, right? And I really don't know if it clearly, I mean, some of these looks legit, some of the rest doesn't look legit. So some of these might be malware as well, right? Some of these websites might be hosting malwares, but it clearly helps you understand what other websites are there out there, right? Which are very similar to the ones which you have, right? You can see San Francisco and everything, you know, based, which is matching your regex is shown here. Let's switch this back to probably, let's go to search and change it to just cisco.com. And you'll get very good analysis about the URL, right? So all of this is coming because of that, you know, amazing amount of analysis which Cisco is doing in the backend, right? So you can see the health score, right? You can see it's low risk, obviously, because it's cisco.com. But you can see other stuff, right? You can see what are the requests coming from which countries. You can see the ASN, which is the BGP ASN, right? You can see the BGP ASN in which this particular website or the URL is hosted, right? The various name servers are visible here, right? Let's click on this BGP ASN and you'll get information, more information about it, right? It basically is going to tell you, you know, the routes for this particular, you know, ASN, right? And you should see, maybe it is telling that these two couple of sites, right, which are also in the same ASN, might be malicious. So if I click on this, probably it's going to show that particular website. See, look here, it is showing it to be high risk, maybe because Umbrella classified it to be a phishing website, right? So you can kind of like now take this particular website and put it in your policy and prevent your users from going here, right? So this is your reconnaissance kind of thing. I can put some other website like 4shade.com, right? 4shade.com is something, a very popular website. At the same time, there are a lot of okay, it's telling it to be low risk. Let's scroll down. Let's see the you know, these are all the various subdomains of 4shade.com. Where is the ASN? If you go on the ASN, you should see a lot of websites here. Look, a lot of other websites in the same ASN seems to be malicious, right? If I click on any of these guys, now it should show me that they are seriously malicious. Look here, it has 100% malicious rate. It seems like this fathet.pro seems like a malware kind of like a website, right? So it clearly tells me this this information, you know, from the BGP AS number. It's trying to tell me which AS numbers, you know, from which AS numbers are these you know, or this IP addresses associated to. And I mean, you don't have to block the whole AS, obviously, because the whole AS might not be malicious, but you can now investigate using this cool dashboard to figure out you know, these specific, you know, IP addresses for these specific web servers and put it in your block list. And that way you can prevent your users from falling to the trap of these, you know, malicious websites, right? So that's the final thing which I wanted to show you, which is the Umbrella Investigate. So hope the session was interesting, right? We talked about deployments, right? The first part, right, where you go and mention your network, right? Your networks which are part of your corporate, right, from where the DNS requests are supposed to come. Then we talked about the policies. We talked about various types of policies. We applied them. We talked about intelligent proxy. We talked about Ssl decryption. We talked about reporting, right? How to look at the various analytics, right, around the URLs which are being accessed on a day-to-day basis. You can see that in real time, kind of real time, with probably like couple of minutes of lag. And then we also saw the investigate option, where you can put in a URL and get all the information about that URL, what are similar kind of URLs, and kind of use that information to your benefit, right? So hope that was useful. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and have a good day.